James, I feel it necessary to inform you that I want no part in what you're trying to do, and explaining it to me will not involve me in any way.
That's fine, Andy. I don't need your help. I have all the angles figured out. I'm going to throw this giant hammer at the perfect angle to bounce off that box over there, into the bathroom, off the toilet seat, out of the bathroom, into the kitchen where it will knock a knife over. The knife will slice some butter on the way down. The butter will spread on my toast. The toast will be perfectly buttered. My mouth will consume the toast. My hunger will then be satiated. Then I set it up and do it all again for lunch.
Flawless plan. Your execution will no doubt flabbergast me just as much as your description did.
Well, that was surprisingly disappointing.
It's a good day to wake up on a farm, right? Taking the sights of pastures stretching out as far as the eye can see, the blue sky hovering overhead, and the monsters— Monsters?!
That's right, beasts, as they're better known. Beasts are these hulking, scale-covered things that vaguely resemble animals and other flora/fauna you may find in the wild that you must defeat. Take up your sword, tail, and rubber-adjacent consistency of Skipper, a hero who just wants to help everyone they can, to defeat the beast, save several settlements, and rescue an ever-expanding cast of characters. Are you strong enough to be the creature combatant?
The derelict defeater?
The monster matcher?
The enlarged, enraged enemy eliminator?
We can stop now.
The angry, animalistic, amalgamous, awesome avenger! Okay, I'm good. Beastbreaker's story centers around a world that has been devoid of magic for several generations for some mystery reason. Until recently, that is. On a regular day of moping in the cellar, Skipper, our main character, receives a flying message from a person in imminent danger from some beast. Without thinking, Skipper grabs their grandmother's old sword and charges off to attempt to be a hero.
A quick tutorial battle later, and Skipper's grandmother appears to inform Skipper of the danger they put themselves in. A second monster attacks and is quickly dispatched by Skipper as well. After the battle, these flying sparkly things called motes appear to the surprise of both Skipper and their grandmother. She explains that motes haven't been around for quite a while since the magic of the world went dormant for mystery reasons. She hurries Skipper back to the farmhouse to explain the significance of this event.
She explains that motes create sparks. Sparks need to be untangled. Untangling sparks with a forge will release the motes from the sparks. The released motes are then free to replenish the world, in addition to leaving some of their power behind in whatever equipment is being forged. It's a clear system with no noticeable flaws, and it leaves you with some sweet weapons and armor.
After a brief explanation of forging, collecting motes, and untangling sparks, and how Skipper is a hero, albeit a reckless one, they meet Cinnabar. This is the shady existence that sent the initial message that got Skipper to take action. They seem surprisingly mysterious and want to help Skipper in their journey to break some beasts. Another message asking for rescue appears and Skipper takes up arms to go fight. And lo, the gameplay loop begins. Find message, fight monster, get motes, motes tangle, untangled motes, get equipment, save people, repeat.
Along the way, you'll meet a rather varied cast of characters, all of which offer their own version of help in some way or another, and liven up the rather empty farmhouse Skipper's grandmother owns. Each of them have their own almost overdone personality that evolves very little over the course of the game. Each one also seems to pick out one of the other overdone personalities in the group to befriend while staying acquaintances with the others. The haughty, uppity prince type picking the abrasive street smart type as their best friend in the group is a bit unexpected. I guess the nervous, cowardly type getting picked by the hot-headed former pirate is a surprise too.
The gameplay loop will never break as you sometimes fight monsters to side quests, sometimes fight monsters to grind for motes and sparks, sometimes fight monsters to test out new equipment. Along the way, the mysteries of the world Skipper occupies will deepen, expand, and grow into new mysteries. Skipper and company will fight their way from the farmland to dangerous new wastelands in an attempt to figure out just what happened to the magic of the world.
Gameplay follows a regular turn-based RPG, where you go, then the enemy goes, only there's some twists. The first is how you attack. You'll pick the ability you want to use, then you'll run forward at full speed into the enemy's weak spots, not so weak spots, and the edge of the screen until you run out of steps. Steps are these little paw prints that appear as you pick your first thing to bash your face into, and each ability will let you travel a certain amount of them before acquiring another action.
You'll only see the steps you use until you make first contact, and for some abilities this is great because you'll stop on bounce, which is indicated in the ability's description. For others, however, you get an arrow which indicates where you'll bounce off and the potential cluster bounce you're about to throw yourself into. Unless you're a math and angle god who can predict and determine every single outcome of your movements, you'll usually end up pretty far away from your intended target, thus wasting one of your few precious actions. Actions, dictated at the top left of the screen, are used every time you use an ability.
Don't worry though, you can get more actions if you strike the yellow scale on the monster each turn, or depending on the armor, you may get more energy to use on skills, or the scale will explode and deal damage to scales around it. There's a lot of variation to the effects these golden scales can have.
On the mention of energy, that is built up by doing things specific to the weapon you have equipped. For this sword, every bounce will earn you 1 energy to use, until you run out of steps or until the bar fills. Different swords and weapons will earn energy in different ways, but for swords, throwing yourself wildly into areas where you can get the most bounces possible is the best way to earn energy.
It's kind of a complicated system to get used to during your first few fights, and different weapon types and sidekicks add extra layers of complication that can really aid you in battle or really mess up your strategy. Every battle is a rather delicate balance that can fall apart quickly even if you're completely prepared. It all depends on the luck and skill of your angle choices.
Also, there's a timer.
Son of a... I already have to read up on all this trigonometry and balance that with abilities that maximize damage and sidekicks, running around an empty map trying to find each beast, not to mention crafting things that'll give me the upper hand in battle, and wasting turns collecting motes. Why is there a timer?
This number on the right dictates how long Skipper has to break a core, these purple shapes, before the beast runs from the battle and destroys whatever settlement you're trying to protect. Because of the several types of beasts you can fight, which will vary in scale, strength, and number, this timer can become a real detriment to battles.
The amount of turns you have to break cores steadily goes down as you progress through the game, but the number of times you can reset it after it reaches 0 also goes up. It's a balancing act that seems much more complicated than it needed to be. Oh, the people you rescue become your sidekicks and offer assistance in battle by either being useful, like using weapons to damage the beast, or being useless by pointing out the already glowing weak spots on the enemy. No matter their usefulness, every time the counter reaches 0, your sidekicks will step in, use their specials, and reset the counter to whatever the starting amount is. This can only happen per the amount of sidekicks you have, so try to bring some useful ones with you.
One of the more annoying and hindering parts of this combat is the fact that when you break cores, motes appear. Unfortunately, if you still have steps left to go before your movement ends, you can't collect these. You have to use your next action to collect them, while still trying to attack or build up your block or get in line to counter. There are no upgrades that allow you to just grab them as you're mindlessly ricocheting everywhere, only ones that increase the radius in which they can be grabbed on the next turn. Also, don't make the mistake of leaving any on the field if you intend to break the vital core, the one with the star, because loose motes disappear. To maximize mote grabbing, break as many cores as you can and the vital core in one movement, otherwise the motes within other cores just go to waste.
That's supposed to encourage more playtime, right? You didn't get those motes, but you'll get more in the next battle.
But they're going to waste. All the cores pop at the end anyway, so why not just let us have the motes in the cores that pop as the beast is defeated?
I don't know. Also, is there anything else to do besides, well, break beasts?
No, every enemy is a beast to break. Every side quest eventually leads to one. Every fetch quest has one waiting at the end. Movement in the plot is based around finding the next strong one. There is no break in this extremely small gameplay loop. No mini games to be had, no practice mode to offer so you can learn new skills without risking a settlement being destroyed. None of that.
For a game with such a heavy reliance on luck and invisible lines with ill-defined distances, you'd think there'd be a stronger emphasis on testing the waters before throwing yourself into battle. But I suppose the best way to test your mettle is to forge it on the battlefield before your delicately laid plans fall apart and the beast charges into the settlement you were attempting to protect.
With so many different moving parts in and out of battle, this game is kind of a marvel. There are 4 different weapon types, different armors to complement those weapon types, abilities you can upgrade, weapons you can customize to fit your specific playstyle, sidekicks you can upgrade. There's quite a lot here, even if it's the same loop over and over.
Beastbreaker is a game that picked a time-worn playstyle in the turn-based RPG and applied some endlessly fascinating and somewhat unpredictable gameplay mechanics to it with the breakout pinball fighting style. It's not exactly a seamless marriage of the two, but when you find just the right angle, get several bounces, have the perfect skills, and just enough turns left to recover from the awful positions you put yourself in, you just breathe a sigh of joy-filled relief. Your plan worked, you got some good hits in, now good luck getting lightning to strike twice. The culmination of your tactical knowledge, your judgment of distances, and the luck involved in executing exquisite strategies is actually a battle of epic proportions.
This next portion dips into spoiler territory. Please be aware and skip to the time code on screen if you wish to avoid them. Alright, here we go. For the final battle, all of your ready and willing sidekicks stack up to prepare to join the fight as they have since they joined you. Some of their abilities are still quite useless despite being powered up if you did the side quests. A lengthy, daunting, and difficult, not so much if you keep the retaliation ability on you at all times, battle later, you finally have an audience with the one person who can change your situation. The one person who can fix the issues you've had since the beginning of the game, since before your adventure began. Unfortunately, after revealing quite a heavy twist in the story that really would have changed the face of the adventure halfway through, the person you've worked so hard to meet with refuses your proposal, and you go home, and you sulk, and the credits roll.
Why is this in the spoiler section?
Everything you've gone through, the grinding, the fluff, the rescuing, the hunting, the forging, the working hard, it amounted to nothing. There is no end, just a means to continue grinding. I poured several more hours into grinding for motes and sparks to upgrade and forge everything, and eventually had to pull away because I began to use one weapon and one set of armor. I wasn't getting anything out of it. I was hoping, beyond hope, there was something else, something more that could happen.
Perhaps it was one of those games where you can only get the good ending if you never fail a battle.
That would be a real dick move. For the sake of replayability, I suppose I understand, but in terms of the story, it just makes the ending feel really empty, devoid of any real reason to go back and continue playing and grinding. After learning how awful the bow and arrow and the knives were, and the constant badgering of "this person ran away, go find out why" fetch quests, nothing. It doesn't make the game bad, but it really undermines the story I worked so hard to see the conclusion of. There is none, just
"I will not help. Goodbye."
And then you go home unsatisfied. It's very disappointing.
So moral of the story, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and working hard will only get you to the person in charge who can invalidate everything you've gone through just by saying no.
Essentially.
Beastbreaker is a combination of heavy-duty trigonometry, breakout with a little bit of pinball, and turn-based RPG mechanics that make a polished and mechanically impressive adventure. It contains a story about working hard from nothing, carrying torches until battles are complete, and helping anyone you are able, with an added pinch of spite from that one math teacher that emphasized "you'll need this one day" suddenly being right. This is a fine game. Some stumbles in the story and a very small gameplay loop may annoy and bore some players, but it's likely one of the most unique gaming experiences you'll have for all of 2021, perhaps of the decade.
Thank you for tuning in for our review of Beastbreaker. We hope you enjoyed it and will consider giving the game a try. How did you feel about the game? Let us know in the comments and be sure to share this video around. Also, follow us for more reviews because we're cool. Trust us.